Jamaica's most famous ghost story is not what you think.
In 1742, Richard Lawrence sold his 290-acre property in St. James to Henry Fanning for £3,000. 4 years later, after purchasing the True Friendship estate, Henry got married to Rosa Kelly on July 16, 1746. Henry had many plans for the property, but not long after their marriage, he died. This left Rosa with ownership of the estate. She soon got married to a wealthy plantation owner named George Ashe. George was able to bring Fanning's vision for the property to fruition. He spent a whopping £30,000 to build an impressive mansion, beautifully decorated with carvings made of stone and mahogany, and he named it after his wife. But once again, Rosa's apparent bad luck intervened, and in 1752, George Ashe passed away. In May the next year, Rosa got married to a man named Norwood Witter. Unlike her other husbands, who died relatively soon after marriage, Norwood spent all of 12 years devouring most of her wealth. He died May 20th, 1765. In May 1767, 2 years after Norwood's death, Rosa got married to her fourth husband, John Palmer, who had also lost his spouse. He also owned the neighboring property called Palmyra. It would seem that Rosa finally found her true love. They were together for 23 years until Rosa died in 1790 and John in 1797. John willed the two estates to his sons, John and James, but they had no children, so it was passed on to John Rose Palmer, who lived in England. He eventually relocated to Jamaica, where he met his future wife, Annie Mae Patterson. Now, let's get into the legend. Annie Patterson became the second mistress of the house on the 28th of March, 1820. She was born in 1802 in England. Her mother was English and her father was Irish. They were both merchants who were interested in trading and decided to move to Haiti when Annie was 10 years old. Unfortunately, soon after arriving, they contracted the yellow fever virus and they both died, leaving Annie an orphan. Now, Annie did not know of any relatives in England, so she couldn't go there. And that's why her nanny, who was a voodoo priestess, adopted her and, of course, taught her the craft. Well, that's what the legend says. At the age of 18, her adopted mother died and Annie was once again left alone. So she decided to relocate to Jamaica to find a rich husband. And that's where John met Annie and they got married. And this is where the ghost story that features Rosehall Greathouse begins. It was said that Annie murdered 3 husbands and countless slave lovers. John, with arsenic, when she found out everything was willed to her. Husband number 2 was stabbed several times in his sleep, and to ensure that he was dead, she poured hot oil down his ears. And her third husband, who was said to be an abusive drunk, was strangled with the help of a freed slave lover named Taku. She was also said to have murdered many slaves. Now, she was not blamed for any of the murders, and according to the legend, she was later murdered by Taku. The tomb on the property is said to be hers. Now, this is where the legend of a haunting in Jamaica began. And according to the legend, Annie Palmer is cast as the White Witch of Rosehall. It is said that her spirit still haunts the great house. There are pictures said to have been taken by guests which appear to show spirits in the house, and this was seen as confirmation that it was indeed haunted. But do you recognize any similarities between Rosa Palmer's story and Annie Palmer's story? Both had multiple husbands who died quite soon after being married. For both, husband number 3 was less than honorable. Rosa's third husband used up all her wealth, and according to the legend, Annie's third husband was an abusive alcoholic. Fishy. There was an investigation into the legends, and the investigator concluded that the story was fictionalized and based on a book, The White Witch of Rosehall, which was published in 1929 and written by Jamaican novelist Herbert Deliso. It was concluded that the story may have been confused with Rosa Palmer, who was the first mistress and the one that actually went through 4 husbands. It was said, however, that Rosa was a virtuous woman and did not commit such crimes. Her remains are buried at the St. James Parish Church on Church Street in Montego Bay. The real Annie Palmer was actually born in Hanover, Jamaica, it would seem. Her father was the custos of the parish, her parents had Scottish ancestry, and none of her husbands were murdered. And that's why Jamaica's most famous ghost story is not what you think. Thanks for watching. You may find this video about the most disturbing love story in history an interesting watch. But before you go, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, share with your friends, and subscribe. See you in the next one.